All right, everybody. I'm in the middle of upgrading. Let's get transitioned over and get started. First of all, thank you everybody for joining, just for participating before the stream. I got started on upgrading Angular 22 at 9 a.m. my time, so about an hour ago. And I think we're in a good place. The only thing that we were missing is version 6 is required by Angular 22 of TypeScript. So that's what we're running right now. We're doing the version 6 upgrade of TypeScript. While that's running, let's take a look at, actually that's all there. You know what, a couple behind the scenes things, right? So last week missed, there was some family stuff going on. And this week, yesterday was the memorial service for my wife's grandmother. And it was a good service. Sorry guys, I'm trying to wrangle the crazy new addition. I don't know if you guys have seen Sunny. Sunny is my daughter's new puppy, and Sunny is hyper and crazy, and she's chewing on my toes right now. So she just wants to say hi. Cute little pup. Let's see, yesterday, my wife's grandmother's memorial, they wrangled me into reading, so before my wife's grandmother passed on, one of my wife's aunts sat with her and basically recorded this whole session of what her grandmother wanted to say to family and grandkids and all of that. It was a pretty emotional 3 pages of text that I got to read in front of everybody. It was really good, really, really well written, very emotional. So that was yesterday. Going forward, I think I've got some vacation coming up, but it shouldn't affect any streaming, not that I'm aware of. So, yeah. Anyway, Angular 22, right? I'm just looking right now at anything. I would like to get in and dive into some Angular 22 stuff. There's some Tailwind stuff to upgrade, stuff like that. There's some other libraries to upgrade. Azad needs an upgrade, but whatever. Apollo looks like it needs an upgrade. We'll see if it runs. I think I saw Apollo Angular in here too. It looks like types node. Yeah, Apollo Angular needs an upgrade. I'll get all of this stuff upgraded eventually. I just don't want to spend this entire stream. We've done so many upgrade streams. I want to do a stream where we get in and we actually do some stuff. So let's get into that. First thing I want to do is just commit this migration. We're gonna stage all of the skills and other stuff, and one of the nicest things, and in the new the new meta, right, as of June 1st, where everything now costs credits, I may stop doing this so much, but I got so used to just letting the AI be like, yeah, I'm gonna write your commit messages for you. Great, thank you. So we did that. So we upgraded the Angular skills, and then we upgraded TypeScript, and we'll come back to this here in a second. I do want to take a look at a couple of blog posts that Michael shared. And you guys, Michael was on a couple of, he was out there doing stuff with the Angular 22 upgrade. So he was on a show with, I'm gonna have to go look. So he was on with Sky Zero ZX, and Armand, yeah. And let me copy this link for you guys. Because Michael's out there doing some cool stuff. Yeah, Angular Space with Armin. Oh. Well, that's a horrible message. That is the crappiest message ever. Let's delete that message. And did that message come through? Doesn't look like it went through to let me post this link for you, Michael, to everybody there. Let's pull that up here. One day Michael's gonna rickroll me. So yeah, here we go. So this is the stuff that he did with the Angular 22 and his signal forms experiments and all of that stuff. You guys should go check this out. Michael's doing amazing stuff in the community right now. Very, very cool what's going on. And very excited what he's doing. Michael is my secret behind the brains, and maybe not so secret now that I'm telling everybody this, but Michael's my behind the scene brains, behind the scene brains. He's constantly sharing stuff with me to help me. Here's the thing. Right now with work, most of my work is heavily focused on governance and AI strategies and stuff like that. So my Angular work is really only my personal stuff. And so having somebody like Michael, and Ole is helping out, and Johanderson, and people like that behind the scenes who are helping me keep up to date has been hugely beneficial. And I appreciate all of you guys. Hey, there's Sky Zero. Welcome. You'll alternate. We'll see you in a bit. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's good to have you all here, and I appreciate all of the help that I'm getting behind the scenes. I just want to thank you guys all publicly. You guys have been amazing, huge help. Really, really appreciate it. And anybody else, if you guys feel like you have feedback that you'd like to give me, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me on X. And I keep threatening to do this, but maybe this summer, when I've got some time, I'll finish I've got a Discord server up, but it's only set up for like my brothers and I, and we don't even use it. So I'm going to get rid of that Discord channel and probably replace it with something for the stream. And that way, people can reach out on the Discord channel. It'll be an easier way than trying to track me down on all the different socials. So I'm getting serious about that. And yeah, that's kind of the behind the scenes stuff. But thank you everybody. Let's see. Let's get back into it, right? So this is Michael's stuff. But here's the Angular 22 blog, right? And the big focus has really been, production ready, making sure that everything gets ready. The huge star probably of this release, and I don't know, I don't even hate calling it that. What I was looking for was Signal Forms, right? Signal Forms is production ready. You can use Signal Forms as of Angular 22 in production, which is awesome. And we've seen what it does. Today we're going to go in and we're going to rework some of our Signal Forms stuff, stuff I've been threatening to do for a while. I really want to get this repo up to date and good to go. And they give examples of Signal Forms here. Angular Aria is huge also. And this is one we're discussing actually at work quite a bit, because we could build our own design system that works well with Angular, but also has the Aria, that is accessible, right? Accessibility is the name of the game with Angular Aria. So they're accessible primitives, and we're looking at this seriously to build our Angular design system at work. So very, very excited about Angular Aria. This has been a discussion we've had for a while. And then the other big one is we got resource and HTTP resource, right? Those both landed. And then as we talk going forward, right, we've got the agentic stuff and the AI stuff. I'm really curious with the big changes like June 1st. For where I am on June 1st, the change from request based to I keep saying token, but it's really credit based requests, that really shook things up. And I expect it to shake things up more in the industry. So I want to watch companies like Google, right, and the Angular team and see how they're looking to work in this new kind of paradigm with AI. Yeah, SkyZero added a lot of HTTP resource options. He's done a lot of amazing stuff for the Angular team. And we definitely need to get in and do more with resource, HTTP resource and all of that stuff. But as we look forward, here's the interesting thing about there's kind of an interesting paradigm shift taking place in the world because of agents and LLMs, right? The Angular MCP and the Angular CLI have become significantly more powerful. And then when you add things like Antigravity to them, which they're built to work with natively, now we get into a very interesting place. It makes me wonder about NX. For the time being, I'm still very much on the NX is what you should be using with Angular. But the Angular CLI is quickly closing that gap. And I think some of the reason for that is, if you guys have questions about that, ask me in private. Probably not something to talk about in public, but the Angular CLI is definitely closing that gap. The Angular MCP is making it even more interesting. So I think as we go forward, we're going to see the Angular CLI really start to become more powerful. And then using agents and LLMs, our mono repos and the tooling there, we may be able to set up our repos using the LLMs, and that'll be an interesting day. Obviously, the agent skills for Angular, we just upgraded those before the stream. We upgraded the Angular developer skills, and the web MCP stuff, this is something that I want to look into in our Angular dynos. I think it would be interesting to set up WebMCP and A2UI. And I don't know if you guys, A2UI standard. Oh, there was one right there. A2UI.org. So the interesting thing about A2UI is it's an agentic driven interface. And it's a standard built on the Apache 2.0 license. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to it. But we can, like, if we watch this video, we can see some of the ideas behind it. And Manfred Steyer has been doing some stuff with A2UI also. But it's a fascinating way to allow the agents to control your UI, right? So the AI has generated all of this stuff here. They uploaded the image, and the AI generated all the UI stuff here about the image that was uploaded. So yeah, that's the big one that I'm looking at, and I think it would be interesting to set up a web MCP to allow agents to interact with the data that we have in our Angular dynos, and then using that web MCP, potentially setting up an A2UI demo, and using that A2UI to drive the UI for editing and doing whatever, right? I think it would be very, very interesting. But I think this is, there's a lot of potential here. So yeah, let's see. K Kansami, hey, it's been a while, K Kansami, welcome back. I couldn't use signal form from last version 21 of Angular in the production app. Some features were missing, some were broken. I'll revisit after 22. I hope we find more in this stream. Yeah, Angular 22 is when signal forms became stable. So the Angular team says they're production ready. I would love to hear your feedback there. The web MCP boosts at I/O were my favorite, and Doug Parker has done a lot of work with Angular's web MCP and signal forms, web MCP integration, and that's what I'm excited about, is the work with web MCP. So yeah, that I really want to lean into some of these newer technologies. And the reason for that is partially selfish, because I want to be able to speak knowledgeably about WebMCP at work. But the other piece of that is I want to help you guys to be able to say, hey, yeah, WebMCP is good for this, WebMCP is not good for that, or A2UI is awesome, or hey, we should use A2UI here, but maybe not here. Like, I don't know the answers to those questions. So I definitely want to get into that with you guys too. If the docs on signal forms now in 22 are missing some topics for you, there's still some docs PRs for signal forms outstanding. So yeah, thank you for that, Michael. WebMCP is, for me, the most interesting part of the framework evolution to allow AI interact with us on web apps. Exactly. And that's, so I think it was during I/O where they were talking about making the web and interfaces accessible to people, or maybe it was in another meeting I was in, and I'm conflating everything. But think about all of the different people and all of the different skills that we have on the internet right now, right? From the digital native generations that have been brought up on web and stuff like that, to people like my parents' generation who still double click on links, right? And then think about forms that we present to people. And to some people, those forms are perfect. To others, they're very difficult to understand. So what if a user could chat with a form and be like, I don't know what this means? and the agent could be like, oh, well, let's present it in a different way, or oh, this means this, can this is how you should fill it out, or things like that, or this form is overwhelming, can we make it more of an interview, or different things like that that make it so that people can interact with it. And then if we think about things like signal forms, and we think about things like Angular ARIA, and then we think about things like accessibility, where a form may not be the easiest way for people to interact with our site with accessibility problems. So what if you could say, hey, I have problems with accessibility. Can you make this form do X, Y, or Z? And suddenly the site changes and it's more accessible for you. That's where I think the real power of what Angular is doing right now, because the state and the application itself sits in the API server. It sits in your signal forms logic. It sits in your signal store logic. And then signal forms allows us to take signal store logic and make it accessible to signal forms. And then Angular ARIA allows us to create those accessible building blocks that people can interact with, that the A2UI agent can build from. So we give the building blocks to the agent creates something that the user understands, and I think it's a very, very powerful way to go. They talked about generative UIs during I/O. I bet Hash Brown plus WebMCP would be interesting for an interactive experience as well. And that's so Mike Ryan is working with I forget his company, GitHub something. And they're working on something with A2UI also. But yeah, it's like Hash Brown plus WebMCP plus what A2UI all mixed together. Is kind of what the new stuff that he's working on looks like. And where he's got all of his experience with Hash Brown, I think it would be really cool. But I agree with you. I think Hash Brown plus WebMCP would be amazing, and that's kind of the direction I would love to go. And then they added some new platforms for developing and vibe coding and stuff like that. For people interested in vibe coding, if you guys are interested in vibe coding, let me know. I think most of my audience is not vibe coders. I think we use agents in our day-to-day work, but we aren't out there vibe coding. Angular router enhancements. So the router can now intercept all navigation requests. We can now use the native scroll behavior, and we also hook into the native lifecycle. This is awesome. It allows us to do accessibility stuff in page transitions, right? You can announce that a page transition is happening, so people can, people with, people who need assistance can get that assistance as that transition happens, and it uses the native browser stuff to make it accessible to everybody. So there's some really cool stuff here. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. The new service decorator. This one's interesting because service is an alias, right? It's a replacement for the injectable provided in root. But service, this is an interesting one, and this is one that I'm gonna have to figure out what I do, because I don't typically provide my services in root. I typically make them injectable, and then I provide them either at a route level or at a component level or something like that. I really don't make a lot of my services root scoped, and so I like this because removing all of this is great, and service is smaller than injectable. I think it's a great addition. But the way I work, I don't know. Maybe service will be something I use, maybe not. But I think it's a great And you can see here, the basic data store is just provided as a service. Great. Asynchronous dependency injection is here. This one's really cool, right? So sometimes you have these giant dependencies that slow down your loading of your page. In the past, they had components and routes, but services couldn't be lazy loaded. Well, now they can with the inject async. And there were community things out there that were doing this, but this is really, really cool. So now we've got inject async, right? And so now, we can inject the service asynchronously, and very, very cool. And right, the report exporter service is not loaded until it's first used. And so here we're using an inject async and we're passing it a function that does the import. So we're lazy loading our service. This is cool because I've spent so many different times lazy loading services, and some of the crazy things, right? In the past, when you were doing like bundle size optimizations and things like that, and trying to get your chunking to work, sometimes things would get bundled because of the service. Because the service couldn't be lazy loaded. Well, now with this, the service can be lazy loaded. Now, we can chunk it and bundle it better. We'll get better performance on loads because we aren't waiting to load heavy services. We'll get better bundles performance. This is a big deal. Like, these two are big deals. This is amazing. And then TypeScript version 6. And then, as always, we get performance enhancements. And comments are now supported in HTML elements. I didn't know this one. This one's cool. This is very cool because we could comment this out as we're doing testing. Very cool. Post directive deduplication. So if you've got a host directive that matches multiple times, so the template match, so we're deduplicating what wins. Spread is available in templates. This is cool, because now we can, spread things across, arrays or things like that. Or properties, right? Standard cup styles, things like that. Switch, less boilerplate. So we've got a default kit. No, we had that one before. But they added the default never. Or was default added? No, this is the fall through case. This is the fall through case here. Default never is very cool because default never allows us to say, hey, we didn't match every case, and it'll throw a compile time error. So yeah, I don't use agent also, just the AI chat in a separate tab. Keika and Sami, welcome to the stream. You are welcome anytime. You've been a long time friend. We forgive all sins here, right? Everybody is doing something, right? Everybody has that one thing that they don't like to admit to everybody. No, I'm just joking mainly. You're always welcome here. I always wanted to try Playwright MCP. That one would be cool, Ole. Maybe we'll take a look into that. Purge 513. Never push into a suite. Move it to a suite. Oh. Okay. Purge. Not sure I'm young enough to understand that reference. But we'll leave it as is. Speaking of comments and templates, I don't know if ESLint core is ready for comments and HTML elements yet, but Angular ESLint just released VS 20 or version 22 an hour ago, and we just upgraded to it. So we'll see what happens. The switch changes came in minors. Okay. And I remember these switch changes coming in 21. And thank you, Michael, for being here. Arrow functions and templates. This is another one. I'm not sure if I'll use it myself, but it's possible that a lot of other people will. I typically like to keep my logic out of my templates. And, arrow functions might be seen as, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll change. Who knows? I may be too old to learn some new tricks, but we'll figure it out, right? The other thing is the on push is now the default for new applications. And if you didn't have something marked as on push, it adds this eager. We're going to take a look at what happened in the upgrade, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff. This one is very cool, and the new boundary stuff. I want to dig into this one quite a bit too. If you got a unit test, adding or subtracting, and have that in the TS, you might be adjacent. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll own that one. But the new boundary stuff is very cool. Boundary, if you guys haven't heard of this one yet, and I'm late to the game, so you guys probably have, but this promotional widget could throw an error. And in the case that it throws an error, your application is broken, right? With boundary, we can catch that boundary. And with this error block, we can replace it with something. We can do stuff with the errors. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can do here. Boundaries, error boundaries have been in React for a long time. Being able to do something like this for Angular is huge, and I'm very excited about this one. As developer so we don't even have this one yet. Okay, I was hoping to experiment with it. Q3. What is that? That's September-ish, right? Is that Q3 or is that Q4? Q1 is 1 through 3. Q2 is 4 through 6. July. Q3, like between July and September, we'll have the boundary stuff. So that's very cool. The other link that Michael sent me was the Angular Ninja, or the Ninja Squad. So TypeScript v6 is required. Node 22 is required. There's something I've been putting off, right? And it's been that way for a while. But so we're on Node 24. Volta is deprecated. So anybody out there using Volta, you should get off of it. I've just been really lazy about getting off of Volta. What I'll probably do is I'll just fire up like the anti-gravity agent and I'll have it get me off Volta. It's probably the easiest way to do it. On push, we talked about that. Signal forms are stable, but they're going into like touch and touched. So you've got signals for when something is touched. You can set a signal to mark it as touched. Consistent when. All validators and dynamic behavior, disabled, read-only, hidden, now have a when option to specify when they should be applied instead of passing the reactive function directly as an argument. The old here you used to be able to say, like, this is the way all of our stuff is, but we can now pass a when, an object with a when property on it that has a function. We'll look at updating to the new when stuff. Min date and max date validators. These aren't as big of a deal to us because we're using Zod, but these are nice. Actually, we could probably throw in min date and max dates too. Debouncing a field on blur, this was a big deal. This is very cool. So we can debounce our form password on the blur. So It's not making changes as we're typing. We wait for the blur action to happen. And, we can debounce async validators also. Very cool. We can rerun them. We can get errors. The Ninja Squad really came out and gave us great stuff. We'll go through the Ninja Squad stuff here pretty heavily in the future. Oh, this is funny. So my stuff is fighting their stuff. So I'm using Dark Reader. So I turn it over to dark mode and I turn Dark Reader off for Blog Ninja. There we go. So their stuff is now in dark mode. We'll come in and we'll look at this pretty heavily. Let me give this link to everybody who's here. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that link. But let's go take a look at what was changed during the migration. So this morning I upgraded to NX 22.7.5. Really not a whole lot there. The next thing that happened is I upgraded Angular to version 22. So if we look, and if you guys joined early, you'll see a practice that I tend to do with NX and Angular. And this is one of the big pieces that I really like about NX, is it writes the migrations JSON stuff out. And so before the stream, what you probably saw was I had, I ran the CLI upgrade, and then I renamed the migrations JSON to be the CLI migrations. And then I ran the core upgrade, and then I renamed this migrations.json to core migrations. And then I ran the schematics upgrade. There were no upgrades. And then I joined the two of them together, which gave me all of the upgrades together in one file. So I could run all of the Angular package upgrades and then come back and run the migrations themselves with all the Angular packages in place. Which is a very, very cool, powerful thing that you can do in NX, which goes again a bit against what I was saying before, right? But then the next really cool thing that was happening, well, it wasn't that cool, but it's a nice thing about NX is you guys may have seen, I was trying to figure out, because if we take a look, in the project.json, we were already using the Angular application builder. And we've been using the Angular application builder for a while, and this is pretty small, I'm sure. So let's do that. Let's make it easy for everybody to see, right? And we're gonna close this. So we were already using the Angular application builder. And so one of our migrations that existed between here and here was failing. And this is where the migrations.json becomes very powerful, because in the ng-CLI, if you run an upgrade and it fails one of the migrations, you're kind of stuck and you're in a weird state. And we can go back here through the history. And we can see that, hey, it's trying to run the use application builder migration, right? And it's saying that, hey, we can't upgrade Dino's API to use the application builder because only Angular Dev Kit, this, or the browser ES build, or the browser can be automatically upgraded. Well, we were already on the application builder, and so it was failing here. And we were stuck, and there wasn't an easy way to get past this. Luckily, with the strategy with NX, where you run the migrations after, I was able to go in and just remove the piece here and just remove that and say, yeah, don't run that. And then all the rest of my migrations ran. So we can see, you know, there's some Istanbul stuff for people still using Karma. There's some migrations from Karma to the new vtest Karma, right? Trust proxy headers were set, and then you know, we're upgrading the Angular workspace configuration here. They added change detection eager. We're going to go through and see where they added that, and we're probably going to go and remove all of these. So we're going to go to on push change detection because we're already signals enabled. We don't really need eager change detection in our application. They added with XHR to provide HTTP client. We'll see that. Strict templates to false. I'm probably going to turn this off because I want strict templates to be defaulted to true. And then as the third argument to can match, I don't think we had anything that needed the third argument of can match. And then here, we're not using hydration. Maybe we are. We'll see if they added the with no incremental hydration. And then they're disabling the nullish coalescing not nullable and optional chain not nullable diagnostics. Those were disabled. And there was something interesting that I wanted to take a look at that I didn't see in either of the blogs. And then we're migrating broken duplicate outputs. And I don't think any of this hit. And then wraps optional chaining expressions in safe navigation migration. This is the one that I saw. And I think it's because of some of the stuff we're doing. So yeah, pre-stream NX stuff definitely helped when I have updated the toolkit since it is NX based. Yeah, and that's the way that I like to work with NX is when I'm going to run a bunch of things, I'll create migration files and then merge them together. You cover it in your V22 repo. Cool. So we've got the right person here to help us out with the optional chaining. It is optional chaining, Michael, to spoil the surprise. And then here, this is just us upgrading, I believe, to TypeScript. No, this is the Angular ESLint stuff that Michael called out that just went to version 22. So I think we're good there. Here, this is us upgrading the agents. And then in the package, we upgraded to TypeScript version 6. So that's everything that we did to get to this point. Let's go take a look here at what happened. So in our delete dyno modal component, they've added, let's go fix this, right? So let's go to our delete dyno modal component. And we're going to remove this. So there goes our eager. And here, what's going on here? Oh, we've still got circular. I need to fix these circular dependencies. That's one of the things we really need to do. So that'll be something we do also. But let's take a look. So we removed that. Here is the safe navigation migration, and I want to take a look at what that does because I hadn't heard of this before. I think it's probably a migration thing. So we'll take a look at that. Here is another change detection strategy, eager. So this is in the edit dyno component. So let's go ahead and switch over to the edit dyno component. And we're going to pull out this eager. And I thought, oh, do we not have prettier running in here? Is my prettier is running? I know it is. I thought I had the piece in prettier to remove unused imports. Where's my prettier here? Prettier, ignore prettier RC. Do I not have that? Yeah, so I've got organized imports and Tailwind CSS. But I'm not seeing that plugin here. Interesting. Let's see. Prettier plugin, organize imports. Sorry about the flashbang here. That is me turning that off. Sorry about that. Let's go to the GitHub repository, because that should show us how to install it. Oh, we were using Prettier 2 before, and we have to. That's right. Because Prettier 2 had automatic plugin discovery. I guess it's a good thing we took a look at this, right? So here, we want that, but we also want we want this one, I believe. Yep. There we go. So we've added our two plugins. So that should run it now. So we've got our Tailwind plugin, and now we've got our Prettier plugin to remove. So we'll see on the next one if that's the case. So here, route to home, again, we got a change detection strategy eager. So we're going to go here. Route to home. And we're going to take out our eager here. There we go. Okay, so it is working. I didn't have it added. So going from Prettier 2 to Prettier 3, we should have made that change. The sort button component, another change detection strategy. So sort button component. Eager here. We're going to remove this. And that removed it from the top. Great. Yes, no component is another eager. So here, yes, no components. Eager. There we go. So the TS config, like the testing configs, nullish coalescing not nullable, an optional chain not nullable. So we're suppressing these. I think I want to take these out. But we're going to leave them on for right now. And the reason that we're going to leave them on for right now is we're making a whole bunch of changes as is. And I don't want to get into too big of a mess. I'm not sure what kind of a mess we're going to be looking at after we make these changes. So again, with app config, we got the with XHR added to our provide HTTP client. This allows us to make, XHR requests. Another change detection in the header component. We can take that out. We can take that out, and boom. And this is probably a circular reference. Yep. Not good, but we'll clean that up. Here again, we've got the suppress stuff on. More suppress stuff. More suppress. More suppress. And that's it. So the last piece that I wanted to take a look at was the optional chaining, the safe navigation migration. So Angular adopted safe nav and nullish coalescing in templates before TS added them to TS. So some assumptions for templates didn't match the TS spec. This aligns the templates but allows backwards compatibility. Okay. What happens if I remove it, Michael? Because we take a look at this, our updated ats. I mean, the reality is we could probably because this is going to be null here. I'm going to take it out. So let's take a look at the display dyno component. Let's just take this out. We'll take out the safe navigation migration and see what happens, right? Because you should always experiment in code. If you remove that function, then you will be using safe nav like the TS spec. And I forgot exactly the difference, but I'll see what my project says. Let's take a look here. So if we go take a look, what we removed. She's such a cute puppy. She's just so happy. I love it. It's a safe navigation migration. Navigation, migration, Angular. Can't generate an AI overview right now. Try again later. That's okay. Let's just see if Angular has something in their docs. Safe navigation, migration. Comprehensive Guide to Angular Migration 2026. Let's see what's in here. Nope, not there. Add a $sign. Does that do anything for me? It looks like Ninja Squad has it, huh? Okay. Here we go. Okay, another change in this area is that Angular semantics now align with TypeScript for optional chaining and templates. For example, project with the optional chain author returned null in Angular templates when project was null, while it returned undefined in TypeScript code. This is because Angular made this choice before TypeScript had its own semantics for optional chaining. But now that TypeScript does, Angular follows it, and the project with the optional chaining author returns undefined when project is null or undefined. As this might be fairly breaking, a migration wraps such optional changing expressions in safe navigation migration, keeping the previous behavior. So they wrap it, and then, so I'm not relying on null anywhere, and I know some people rely on null. Like rely on the difference between null and undefined. I try not to use null or undefined when possible in my code. So I don't think we've got anything breaking. So removing that should fix it. Optional chainings will now return undefined instead of null. This behavior can be disabled by wrapping expressions with, okay. So safe navigation migration, basically, well, we could test this, right? What I was thinking is safe navigation migration. Really, what it probably does is we can just add this here, right? So up here at the top, we can just right here, we can throw in, you know what, let's not do it here. This is the wrong place to do it. The app component is probably a safe place to do it. So after the router output, we can just do H1, or we can just do, we can do a strong and safe navigation migration. And then here we can do a pre, and we can do no no wrapper. And here we can just output undefined, right? And then here with wrapper, we can do that. And my bet is that the safe navigation migration, do I have to import something for safe navigation migration? We'll see. But what I'm willing to bet is that this output's undefined and this output's null. That just this wrapper is a magic. Yeah, okay. So we'll see what happens here, right? So let's go ahead and now let's just pnpm nx serve. Actually, we need to get a couple things going. So here, let's go ahead and grab the Docker desktop. And we're gonna, from the Docker desktop, we're gonna launch our Postgres database. Interesting. Apparently I disabled a service. I didn't intend to disable a service, but apparently I did. While that's going, let's just do we'll serve the Angular dynos here because we can always just refresh it. Okay. So the database system is ready to accept connections. Perfect. Okay, so we've got some issues that we need to clean up here. The base URL is deprecated and will stop functioning in TypeScript 7. So we'll want to take a look at that. The dev server, build Angular. Oh, it's just build dev server. Okay. So we'll get those. We'll take a look at those too. PNPM exec nx serve. And we're going to serve the Dynos API here. Let's go ahead and just see what happens. So we're gonna search for everywhere where we've got build-angular and just change it to be build, maybe, or just the dev server. Build-angular. So this should this be Angular dev kit build and not build-angular? We'll run the build target here, but this is saying this shouldn't be build-angular. This should just be build dev server. And this should also be probably build here. Let's run the build really quick and just see what happens. pnpm nx serve angular, or not serve, build angular dash dynos, and we'll just see what happens, right? So here, it's giving that the base URL so we're failing with this right away. Where is my base URL? So this is the base URL. Here, it's just showing to remove it. Is that really? What happens if I remove it? Let's see. Let's see what happens if I remove it, right? What's the worst that could happen? So it looks like it's building. Okay, so we've got some. We've got some issues. We've got some upgrade issues, so we're gonna have to figure this out. Okay, so removing that causes problems. Let's remove it, but let's get this error, right? I'm getting the following error in ES6. How do I fix it for Angular? So we're going to allow it to build. Angular boat. We definitely are doing Angular. So the change it made is it sets the base URL. We'll accept these changes. It's going to set it back, and we're going to allow it to run the build again, but it's going to fail because of the base URL. Oh, okay. So it's removing it. Oh. Okay. Okay, I see what's going on. So you have to give a full reference. That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. I like this better than the base URL. The base URL felt like magic. Um, this is a better so let's see here. I don't want to run this build in the agent. It just feels like a waste of um it feels like a waste of tokens, right? Um, so let's go ahead and go back to here. And now let's just see pnpm exec nx build angular dynos. And I'm curious, is it going to tell me that I need to it seems weird that we have build dash angular application and that works. So that totally worked. So our initial package size is a little bit bigger than I would like. We'll probably investigate this some more. Having a main bundle size of 0.5 meg feels crazy. Like the styles themselves, we can probably clean this up with Lightning or something, and that's something that I might take a look at. But our chunking doesn't feel that good right now. I would like to see more of this in chunks, but we can take a look at that. I don't see anything here. NX detected a flaky task. Yep, it's been failing. I'm very curious here. Does this have to be build dash angular? Very, very curious. So let's go ahead and run this again with just the build and see what we get. Okay, so yes, it does have to be that. So we're going to go back to build dash angular. And the I18N. Let's also see if the extract I18N works. pnpm exec nx extract I18N angular dash dynos. And if this one fails, I'm not that concerned. Yeah. So this one also needs to have the angular in it. So now if we try it again, yeah. So yeah, perfect. So we're okay here. Let's go take a look at what changes we made here. So with the prettier RC, we're gonna stage this and commit that. With the delete dyno modal and all of this stuff. So here what did we do? We took out the change detection strategy. And there was some other stuff that happened. Like what happened here? Oh, it removed some spacing. There was some extra spacing for whatever reason. Interesting. So here, there was some reordering and we removed the magic. So we'll stage that. Apply when and disabled. So it reordered the imports. Yay, that's finally working. Route to home, we took out the eager. Some extra spacing, and we took out the eager stuff. Extra spacing and eager again. Project JSON, we changed it to be the dev server. Dino root. Here, we're adding this test stuff here. We'll pull out the test stuff here in a second, but we'll commit it for now. Again, the change detection stuff. And then here we cleaned it up to not have the base URL error, so the compile works. Great, we'll stage this. And then we're going to push this and see. And see what happens. So let's go ahead and npm exec nx serve Dino's API. And let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Hopefully I haven't broken anything too. Ooh. Ooh, oh no. Oh no, what did I do? So tsconfig based, so a Dino UI. So tsconfig base.json, I'm missing some stuff, huh? Okay. Let's go back and pull up our tsconfig base.json. That one's got it, that one's got it, that one's got it. No, it's there. It is for sure there. So what are we getting at? Like, how is this? Oh, I'm way too far back. I'm way too far back. Never mind. Never mind. What did I do? There's a whole bunch of issues here. So appcontroller.ts, the common source directory of tsconfig app.json is .source/app. The root dir setting must be explicitly set to this or another path to adjust your output's file layout. Okay, so we've got some serious issues. There are a lot of errors when running pnpm exec nx serve angular -dinos. Can you help me fix them? All right. Where is my Claude CLI? I'm actually not using Claude CLI. I'm using Warp, and when I use Warp, if I need a CLI, I'm using Antigravity. So I can run AGY at the command line here, or I can bring up Warp on the, or I can bring up Antigravity in the application itself, which is basically just a wrapper. And I'm using Antigravity as my developer tools. So this isn't VS Code. I'm running Antigravity here. Hey, Michael, it was good to have you here today. Am I using only free AI? I try to use only free AI, but with the new um, with the new tokens and stuff that's going on, I'm using Gemini. So I am yeah, Warp is the IDE. Warp is or not the IDE. Warp is not an IDE. Warp is a terminal. Warp is it's an agentic terminal. It used to be closed source. They just barely open sourced it. It runs on Windows and like Linux and Mac, and it runs on everything. And it's a really good agentic terminal that I've been using because Windows didn't have a good agentic terminal that you didn't have to pay for until Warp came along, and Warp really made things nice. It does a lot of things at the command line that are pretty nice. If you're in Windows, they added the smart terminal, I believe, or I think it's the intelligent terminal. Yeah. So Windows just added the intelligent terminal at the Microsoft Build conference. I installed it, but I haven't looked at it too much. It's a version of PowerShell. It's built on top of PowerShell. It's intelligent. It has agentic capabilities, but I haven't dug into it too much because I use Warp. So I started to use OpenCode Go. First month is $5. Then it's only $10 because I run out of tokens for my Cursor $60 plan. Yeah, Cursor. The reality of like LLMs and things like that is that they're getting more and more expensive, and just the stuff that I've seen from different parts of the industry. The change we just saw in June to go to a credit based. Hey, Caveman Crafting, thank you for the follow, man. The change we saw going from a request based to a credit based is the first step. Things are going to have to like triple or even quintuple in price, which is crazy. So another thing I want to take a look at, and like if we go to Hugging Face, right? And like the latest Quen models. So like you've got all of these different Quen models. And so like this is the 9.5 or 9 billion version of Quen 3.5. If we look at Quen 3.6 and see what models are out there, this is the latest version of Quen. So you've got like a 35 billion with the 3 billion active. And it's also got the NVIDIA FP4. So it's been optimized using NVIDIA. If we take a look at this model, and in Hugging Face, if you create an account, it will give you information about the model. This model if we take a look at the files, files and versions here. So if we take a look at this model, it is actually, this one's too big for my video card. We can see it takes up 23 gigabytes of VRAM. My video card can do 12 gigabytes of VRAM. I can't run this one safely on my video card. I can run it, but it'll be slow if I run a GGUF. But you know, there's all of these Qwen 3.6s and Qwen 3.5s, and Qwen is a super dense coding model. So like a 9 billion parameter version of Qwen does pretty well if you give it a good agent harness. And so this is something else that I want to take a look at with you guys on stream is what do we do when, you know, when what do we do? Well, this is interesting. So according to this, it edited project JSON. What did it do to project JSON? Oh, it switched it to the Angular build dash Angular. But anyway, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I'm probably pronouncing it totally wrong. So Caveman Crafting says, I avoid OpenAI and Anthropic. I've been using Ollama consistently, much happier with how the models they use don't have the whole multiple personality disorder that the GPT Opus ones do. So part of the problem that we have with like the GPT and Opus models is that we've spent so much time giving these models brain damage because we're worried about like the things that the models do. Right? Like if I can ask a model, hey, build me a weapon, right? And the model happily hallucinates building a weapon. Is that on me or is that on the model, right? Or if I become hopelessly in love with a model, and you know that leads to certain outcomes that have been in the news lately, is that the model's fault, or could people in my life have been there to help me, right? There's a bunch of stuff that are big questions and not easy questions to answer. But because of those big questions, the big models out there are being lobotomized and they're getting basically what I call brain damage. And that's what you're talking to with like the multiple personality disorder and things like that. And you get this also with models, like a lot of the unrestricted models on Hugging Face get this weird multiple personality disorder because they're trying so hard to fight against it that you get really weird. But if you stick within the normal models, you know, things usually work out pretty well. I'm doing a mix of Qwen, Kimi, and Llama. Kimi's a pretty good model too. DeepSeek V4 is pretty good. I haven't really experimented too much with GLM too much, but I use Featherless because there are certain models I can't run locally, and Featherless allows me to run models from Hugging Face. I get 32K of context. If I want more context, then I probably need to run them locally, but 32K typically is okay for me. And so, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on that it'll be interesting to see. Jason, I think you can connect Gemini and the open code It has some free models as well. It does. Gemini has free, so I try to use free as much as possible. But I do have a paid for Gemini subscription. Um, Part of that is through being a GDE. As being a GDE, I think we get a certain amount of credits. And maybe that's changed. I don't remember. But I do have a Gemini developer account that I am paying for credits if I need to. So, um, so you can swap out Anthropic servers and Claude Code in VS to use Olama models instead. That's cool, caveman crafting. OpenCode.ai. I want to take a look at OpenCode. One of the biggest reasons that OpenCode that I need to be careful about OpenCode is, and maybe this has changed, but it wanted the WSL, and I don't have WSL set up. But yeah, a Chinese in our company laughed at our pronunciation of Quen is Quen. Yeah, and I don't know how to pronounce it right. Like I'm not able to pronounce the Chinese well. So yeah, I feel like all those safety harnesses really mess them up. And my problem with all the safety harnesses is there are people out there that don't have to use the safety harnesses, right? And those people are using the much larger models at their full capability. But we, as the general public, are locked into the safety harnesses, and that's the problem I see. Is it creates this gap, right, where we get the dumbed down models, we get the models that get quantized when too many people use it and stuff like that. And there are people out there that can, for whatever reason, right, whether it's influence, money, power, whatever, don't have those same restrictions as us. And that leads to a have versus have not, right? It's kind of like the gun safety, driving safety situation, but for computers now. And this is the argument that at some point responsibility is part of the equation. And the decision of the person to use that right, whether or not it's accessible is a debate that we can have. But the other debate that we should have is, if I find a rock in my yard and I pick up that rock and I use it to bash my neighbor in the head, is it the fault of the rock being in my yard, or is it the fault of me that I found a rock and the decision I made was to bash my neighbor in the head, right? And those are much more uncomfortable discussions to have. And there are no easy answers to these questions either, right? Both sides seem to think, there's an easy answer, right? Oh, we just take away all rocks. And the other side's like, no, we just throw people in jail who use rocks, right? But the real answer is probably not either of those answers. And that's where things become difficult. And that's why we tend to stray away from difficult discussions. It's not a discussion I'm going to have on a programming, on a programming stream either. Like the tools are not the problem, the people using them are. And there is a good argument for that to be made, right? So yeah. With the same logic, we need to ban the internet at all. Yeah, see, this leads to there's a lot of uncomfortable questions that we have to have when we get into this area. So strict property initialization, and it's not something that, are you kidding? Oh, I guess we don't need this one. I guess we don't really need this. So I'm going to accept it. Oh, we have to set nullable true. Interesting. Oh, it's So they're setting it back with the ignore deprecations. Interesting. I would like to get away from the ignore deprecations. But yeah, it's always the way I like to look at it is from my point of view, the world makes sense to me, right? And from your point of view, the world makes sense to you. SWC. Why are we doing this? I'm curious why it's doing the SWC. The build dynos worked before it made the SWC change. But anyway, from my point of view, and this is especially the way it works with like tech and programming and stuff, right? Like from my point of view, things make sense. From your point of view, things make sense to you. Quite often when we don't understand each other, it's my inability to perceive your point of view. And if we think about the world is largely perception. So what the heck are we doing here? No. Holy crap. Yeah, we're way off the rails here. We're way off the rails. What just happened here? Why? Ugh. So we're going to go back to the Angular build because that one worked before. I'm okay with this change. All of these nullables are fine. We're going to reset this. We're going to discard these changes. We're going to discard these changes too. These are weird. And we're going to discard these changes also. We're going to commit this. These things came from the Angular tooling. I actually don't like that it added the stringer null, but we'll leave it for now. Because it might be related to some stuff from the upgrade. So let's make sure that this builds again. pnpm exec nx build angular dash dynos. So that one works. So the serve is still broken. Oh, port 4200 is already in. Really? Oh, it's because it's here on Antigravity. We're going to shut down Antigravity and try this again. Yeah, I'm curious. So okay, so now the serve works. Because we're using the build Angular. So let's go take a look at this and see what needs to happen here. Because I would like to make this change, but obviously making this change is causing a problem. So let's go take a look at what that change entails. Let's bring up Antigravity again. And let's go read through this. So the build system, so for existing applications, so the automated one failed. So with manual migration, we need to do some stuff. So here, so instead of build-angular browser or ES build, the application builder. So manual migration to the application builder is here with the application. Once the builder name has been changed, the build target will need to be updated. That's fine. The following list discusses all the browser builder options that will need to be adjusted. Main should be renamed to browser. Options within the build target. So here, if we go here we go. So within here, so browser, so this stuff is all renamed appropriately, right? Polyfills should be an array, build optimizer should be removed as this is covered by resource output path should be removed. So all of this stuff should be removed. That's fine. So that's executing a build, starting the development server. The development server will automatically detect the new build system and use it to build the application. To start the development server, no changes are necessary to the dev server builder configuration or command line. So here we go. Pre-bundling provides improved build and rebuild times. In most cases, no additional customization is required. However, some situations where it may be included customizing loader behavior, such as npm link. So here with serve, Angular build server dev excludes some dep. By default, pre-bundle is set to true. It can be set to false. Oh, you can add define, huh? You can define stuff. Because as soon as we swap this, from here, from build dash angular to just build, this is where things break, right? So as soon as we do this, now our serve doesn't work. Yeah. And the reason it doesn't work wait. What did I do this time? Because it was working. Maybe we need to do a pnpm exec nx reset. That might be a problem here. And let's see if that solves our issue. Okay. So now, let's see if I can serve the Angular dynos. So now we're getting the error we expect. There we go, that works. But I'm very curious, because according to this, I should be able to just swap. Oh, it's Angular build application. So here with the manual, we go to that. Here is it's Angular build dev server. Let's see what happens if we do that. So here, this becomes Angular build dev server. And just to be sure that everything is the same, we're going to reset NX and just see if like our caching and stuff was in the way. Okay. Let's go ahead and serve and see. Okay, better sign. Okay, okay. We got rid of the error, and holy crap, the agent wanted to add SWC and turn off TSC and do all sorts of crazy stuff. It was definitely lost in the weeds. What's interesting here is our main bundle is 9K. And then we're serving up much smaller sizes. So I wonder, let's just see here. I'm very curious if I can just change. Can I change this to be Angular build application? Very, very curious about this. PNPM, actually, we can just go up to the reset. Because these sizes are definitely more indicative of like Vite. And the other bundle sizes were not good. PNPM exec NX build. We'll build the Angular dynos. I don't have a default target set. That's why I can't just run serve or build. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we're still getting the same build sizes, but we're definitely getting Vite output, right? This is different than the output we were getting before. Okay, that's okay. Let's go ahead and just make sure that everything is serving correctly. Man, we got stuck into some fun errors today. I wanted to get into signal forms for you, Keikansami. Next week we will get into signal forms. I'll make sure that I spend some time, whether it's on stream or not, making sure that everything is ready for next Sunday, where we'll dig into signal forms. What I do want to do is just make sure that we go here. And when we run this, oh no. Did I not start the other server? Oh, what's going on here? PNPM exec nx serve dynos-API. Okay, so we've got more issues here. App controller.ts. tsconfig.app.json. Let's take a look at our tsconfig.app.json. tsconfig.app.json. So when we run Dino's API here, this is the app.json that we need to be looking at. Where's the /source? So I think this is the, oh man. So here, if we add the root_dir of /source, and then we have to add the ignore ignore deprecations of 6.0. Does that allow this one to build? So we've got the constructor issues. Let's see, let's go here. Nest.js, GraphQL. Yeah, so we're getting exactly this. So we turned on strict property initialization. Oof. Is this even, it might not even be graph, right? No, it is. It's test GraphQL, test GraphQL, test GraphQL. I don't even think I'm using these anymore. But I do have the Dynos DTO. Dang it. I could probably, this feels weird here. But strict property initialization false. Oh, I hate that, but let's kill this. Let's just do it again. You had the same, and it's an awful solution. Yeah, I hear you, Sky Zero. This is the common source directory of .source. The root settings must be explicitly set to this, or another path to adjust your output's file layout. In main.ts. Common source directory of tsconfig app is .source/app. Oh, did I not add app here? Okay. Are we still getting an issue here? Just clear it and make sure everything's gone. Ah. What if I just set this to dot? Is that what it takes? The dot source app controller. The root directory must be explicitly set to this. Is this? Oh man. Nest.js, this, TS6 upgrade. Open code is good and has some free models. I like open code. I want to take a look at open code. But thank you for that advice. the Hydra known as TypeScript 6 the problem? This is horrible. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put Babel in place. That seems horrible. Create incremental program itself works correctly in TX6. The actual bug is an output dir, but I'm not even getting this far. Um, hmm. See, I don't. See, it's dot source app. Common directory is dot source slash app. Root dir setting must be explicitly set to this or another path to adjust your output's file output layout. Right? And if we take this stuff out and we leave the strict, I don't know why it wants to take that out, but if we leave that there, let's and let's run this. So the error we're getting is this. But we're getting it from appcontroller.ts. So if we go source app.controller.ts, so Nest.js common, Nest.js.app service. So it's trying to pull that in from a local, and then it's trying to pull this from DTOs. Like that's the problem is that it's trying to pull from these local DTOs. Um, So it can't do local module resolution. Is that what it's saying? So like if I look at this, the source directory is .source app. The root dir, so I have to add .source app. Or does this become ./app? Does it become? I don't get it. And adding that here doesn't do anything. What if I do this? Does that do anything for me? Um, the root dir setting must be explicitly set to this or to another path to adjust your output's file layout. Yeah, that may be the issue, Ole. Um, I'm actually a little bit over right now. I was hoping to fix it. Um, I'm really curious what the issue is here. Um, so let's just do anti-gravity here. And when I try to run pnpm nx serve or exec nx serve dynos API, I get TypeScript compile issues. How do I fix them? So I'm curious what it thinks is the issue. So it's already made some changes. Actually, it hasn't. These are my changes. So we can discard these changes. Those are good, and these are good. I want to commit these before it gets too far. I want to be able to roll back anything that it does. Oh, cancel this. No. Okay. So let's go take a look at what anti-gravity has got going on. So it's using TS loader. Wait. It wants. Did it make a change? We'll run a pnpm install. So it added TS loader as a dependency. Well, that's fun. But see all these token usages here, 1.3 tokens here. I think this is going to be see it's stuck in a loop again. npm install force. Sure, whatever. It's probably making a mess of my. Oh, this one I have to do /exit. I'm not sure what's going on here, and I think, I don't think I'm going to be able to solve it in like the next 10 minutes. Yeah, look at that. Probably going to take some investigation. I'm going to dig into this and see what's going on. It's actually a little bit frustrating that this broke Nest.js. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on here. I'm gonna end it here. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you all for participating in the chat. I really wanted to get into some Angular 22 stuff. I mean, we looked at some of the upgrade stuff. We got that all sorted, but I am frustrated with what's going on here. I'll get this figured out and we'll have it ready for next week. But you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.